Thank you for joining, everybody. This is Michelle. I have Stephen Lundle here from Cambodia. It's nighttime over there, so we're going to go ahead and get into this conversation so he can get some sleep, guys. All right.
Okay, so I was born and raised in Alberta, Canada, which is a rural province in the west part of the country. I'm the oldest of seven children. My mom's a nurse, and my father worked in a lumber mill, and they homeschooled us all. And so, yeah, so that's basically my upbringing. I have then moved to Cambodia about 4 years ago, where I'm currently working now as an English teacher. And yeah, other than that, just, living life and enjoying the journey.
Absolutely. So, what motivated you to move to Cambodia?
I was a little bit bored with my life and a little bit dissatisfied with what was going on. I was also working in the steel industry, and economically, it wasn't going very well anyway. So if I didn't change career, I'd probably lose my job.
Ah,
So just on a whim, I picked a country in Southeast Asia. I knew very little about Cambodia, and I came just for 6 months, just for an adventure, and then I was going to go back home. And next month will be my fourth year. It'll be year four. So I'm stuck here. I don't know.
it seems like it's home. Sometimes you just go different places and it sticks to you. I've had that happen recently, actually. So I get it. So let's talk about you as a person. As far as your writing is concerned and your films are concerned, how much of yourself did you put into that, your stories? Like, talk about the connection between your life, what you experienced as a queer person, and the connection it has with your writing.
I think it depends on the project. There are some that are just random, just for fun. Like I really like, horror films. So here's a cool little story to throw out there, right? Some are a little bit more personal. For example, my short film Deliro, which a lot of people are really confused about it. But basically, as a kid, as a bit of an outcast, I didn't fit in well with a lot of, I didn't have a lot of friends, and was bullied a little bit, and so that was just kind of me projecting a little bit some of my memories as a kid, right? I was also raised in a fairly Christian family, but there were also, but quite conservative. And so even though I still identify as a Christian now, I don't identify with some of the more conservative aspects of my upbringing. And so, like, for example, my latest book, Ashamed, is basically about that. It's a work of fiction, but it's basically taking my childhood and projecting that into, somebody else's shoes, basically.
Okay. And I find it fascinating that it's happening a lot with a lot of us, a lot of millennials, a lot of kids that grew up in church that are writing about our stories and are projecting those things to help others and just to really heal and get it out. How would you say that your relationship with God is now in comparison to what it was while you were at home?
That's something I'm still struggling with. Like, to be honest, right now I just am getting together with a church group here locally in Cambodia, where it's mostly expats that I'm with. And we do like weekly church service and Wednesday night Bible studies, for example. But before then, I really was kind of struggling, and I would be what you call like kind of like a lukewarm Christian, right? Like I identify as a Christian, but didn't really go to church, hardly read my Bible, had no interest in anything like that, right? And a lot of that's from my upbringing too. There's a part of me that's like, if Christians can be so, so hateful towards immigrants, towards gay people, towards all kinds of minorities, like why should I, be a Christian in the first place? What's the point of it, right?
Right.
Um,
I totally get that. Absolutely. Now,
yeah, and so
go
yeah,
ahead.
sorry, go ahead. Well, so I was just gonna say, so it's just really recently now where I'm really trying to sit down and be like, okay, how I was raised doesn't necessarily reflect the scripture, right? Just because I was being told that this is the Bible and that's that doesn't mean that what they were saying was actually truth.
Right.
You
Absolutely. And what I found for myself, and I wrote about this in my book, also, what I found for myself is the more I was able to silence the voices that were around me while I grew up, even now as an adult, I'm 39. I am going through life. And when I found that when those voices were finally silenced, then I could really truly hear God. And a lot of the times we grow up, especially, do you think in the Christian community, we grow up to please the people around us more than we are raised and trained to please God and to have a relationship with God? What do you think?
It's very much like, it's very much, I don't know if I should say peer pressure or not, but it is about appearances, you know. So much of our life is kind of hidden, but really what we concentrate on is, what do the other people think of us? I want them to, think of me as being this really holy person.
Yes.
And that's kind of what people focus on, right?
And it's so crazy because you're taught those types of things when you're young, and then when you're an adult, you wonder why you struggle so much. Growing up, the requirement was perfection as opposed to growth. What do you think?
Well, exactly. It was perfection, but also hypocrisy at the same time, because there's so much more focus on certain things and not others, right?
Right.
I've seen people being ostracized because they're gay, for example, but there's so many people in the church who are, divorced or living with someone without being married. And I'm not saying they should be ostracized, but there's this huge double standard towards what the focus tends to be on, what's kind of, pushed to the side, right?
Absolutely. And I think that more than anything, it takes people who are not accepted, people who are cast out, because we're the ones who have the least amount of voices around us.
No, exactly. I feel the exact same way, right?
Yes. Do your parents think that you're crazy all the way out there in Cambodia?
No, I wouldn't think so. I've always wanted to travel. Well, actually, no, since I was about 20, I'm 33 right now. But since my 20s, I've been traveling, quite a bit. I've been to Europe a few times. I've been to Japan many times. Since I came to Cambodia, I've done more traveling, but I was already kind of like not like dissatisfied at home. Like every time I went home, I'm like, okay, when's my next trip? I'm planning it out. You know what I mean? So this is my first time like moving overseas. But I was 16 or so already when I told my parents that I didn't want to live in Canada forever and that I was going to move away. And maybe they didn't believe me, but I wouldn't say they definitely don't think I'm crazy. My mom has expressed interest in possibly visiting me in the near future. COVID's kind of putting a damper on that, but once COVID's over, we might make that happen. And yeah.
Absolutely. Now tell me how your films have done. I know that your inspirations are Quentin Tarantino and Tim Burton. You shot your first short film. How do you say it? Kuro?
Kuro or Kuro. You can say Kuro.
Okay, yes. Tell us a little bit about that short film.
So that was the first film I shot. I had no idea what I was doing whatsoever. I wrote a script and I'm like, what do I do with this? It was a horror script. It was about a Japanese exchange student. He comes to Canada. He stays with the host family, and then basically the kids have a party, and then they end up seeing kind of mysterious ghosts and that kind of stuff, right? I guess you could say that's also based on my personal experience because I started studying Japanese when I was like 16 already. My town had a twin town in Japan, so I worked with a lot of exchange students from Japan, so that was also like had a kernel of like my own experience into it. But anyway, so I had the script, and then I went on Kijiji or Craigslist or something, I don't know, and I was like, I need a film producer. I have no idea what I'm doing. So I found this guy. He knew a cinematographer that he worked well with. They got a crew together. We did a casting. We arrived on set. And I'm like, hi, everybody. I'm the director. We're sitting there. I had the shots all planned. I didn't have them storyboarded or anything, but I kind of knew my shots. But then sometimes my cinematographer, who was a great guy to work with, but he would get a little bit technical and he'd be like, ask about this. And I'm like, oh, I don't know. Should I think about that? Like, so it was like, I felt so, it turned out really well in the end, but I went in there like well, I shouldn't say knowing nothing. Like I had, as a kid, I bought the DVDs, and besides the movie, I then went and watched all like the behind the scenes features, right? So it's not that I didn't know what went into making the movie, but it was a whole different matter to like step on a film set, and I'm like, okay, let's do this. I think like everybody is more experienced than me. I mean, there was a couple of actors younger than me who had been in films and theater and stuff, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm completely new to this, so trust me. And yeah.
That sounds like a lot of fun. I find that most experiences that I've had where I don't have any, real, it's just an idea, it's a dream, it's something I just put together. Those turn out to be the most rewarding because of everything that you learn, right?
No, exactly. And it's just a learning process. And I've learned so much along the way, but that my first experience there, and that was, I think, when I really learned, like, kind of, got a grasp of what it took. And so then after that, in the next script I wrote, I'm like, now I actually know what it means to be on set, and I can visualize the script better, knowing what it'll be like when I'm on set, for example, right?
Right. Now, do you think that there is a realistic portrayal of the gay community in media right now as it stands? And if so, what's the best example that you know?
I would say not exactly. Now, to be honest, it's gonna sound really bad, but I actually don't watch a lot of like queer films just because I don't always trust the portrayal they might give.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Although the one I did see actually that really struck me was Prayers for Bobby. Have you seen that movie?
I've heard of it. I'm gonna write
that. Write it down. I recommend you. It's who's in it? Sigourney Weaver. I can't remember. Sigourney Weaver. It's a true story of a gay boy, and his parents were like very religious, very anti-gay, and he ended up taking his own life. And his mom was so affected by that, and she ended up becoming a very strong advocate for the gay community. And it's based on a true story, and I thought it was very well done, like the film, and very realistic, right?
Most of our stories are not going to be the ones, I don't know, it seems like Americans or just here in the States, they want us to package everything in a really nice, neat, and pretty box to present it to them. They don't want our real stories. They don't want to feel bad, or they think that we're trying to, or they think they were trying to make them feel guilty or something. Exactly,
right?
And it's not that.
No, exactly. And I mean, there could be like nice stories too. I did do one of my short films, The Date, which is the only like real LGBT film I did, which was like the cutest thing ever. I just had a little thing. These two boys are sitting on the swing. They got the dance coming up. They're like, oh, so do you have a girl you're inviting or whatever? And the one boy's like, well, actually, I want to invite you, kind of deal, right? Yeah, so it was kind of fun. But to be honest, most of I think the stories that are real, like the most gripping ones, are the ones that they're pretty serious, and they deal with a lot of the struggles that our community has faced, right? And I would like to think that in Canada, the gay community isn't facing a lot of what they do in the US, unfortunately. Like, I mean, we legalized gay marriage way back 2003, 2004. Like, you guys are really late to the game. Like, no offense, but it's just how it happened. And so, Americans have this impression that Canada is like just this perfect world for the gays. And although I would say we do have it better, but I'm from the most conservative part of the country. So I am in an area where acceptance overall maybe isn't too bad, but there are a lot of like really conservative religious families where it's not very acceptable, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's the guilt talking. If you write your story, and the folks in the story are like, well, you just wanted to tell everybody my business, or you wanted to embarrass me. No, that's not exactly what we're doing. We're telling our experience. We're giving our true history of what happened. And I think that as many people as possible, I think everybody needs to write their story. I think everybody to make people aware of what's going on, because I think in terms of racism, if you don't express that what a person is saying or doing is making you uncomfortable, they're not going to know it. Maybe they do, but once you verbalize it, then they're held responsible for how they treat you.
No, exactly, right. And I'm, when I'm doing it, I'm not necessarily saying like you are a bad person and treated me this way. I'm just saying this is my story, this is the experience I've felt or experienced,
Yep.
and that's it. I'm not trying to like bash you over the head with it. I'm just saying, hey, step back for a second and look. This is an example of what many queer people have faced, right?
Absolutely. Well, I look forward to more of your writing. I'm going to watch your short film actually. Where can people find your books and your films?
So my books are all on Amazon and the Kindle, through the Kindle app if you read ebooks. Otherwise, they are available in paperback. I have So far, I only have 2 books available in my Ashamed series, which is my LGBT series. I only have 1 out right now, but the second one is available for pre-order and will be out in September, which I'm excited for. And as for my films, my YouTube channel is Koyama Productions, and you can find all my films on there for free.
That's awesome. I would give my book out for free if I could, but I don't think it makes sense. But yes. Okay.
Oh, my films are for free. The books aren't, but I think the Kindle books I think right now are only 99 cents. So what do you have to lose? Buy it.
Well, this is an awesome conversation. I really enjoyed this. It was very relaxed and it's like I've known you for a long time. I don't know.
Yeah, no, it was really cool.
But I'll definitely have you on again sometime with more talks about your films and books, if that's okay. But
sure, I would love it. I appreciate it so much.
Yeah, so thank you again for coming on the show. And everyone, I'll make sure that I put the link for his YouTube in the body of the description, as well as the links to his books. So you guys have a good rest of your day, and thanks so much for joining us. All right.
All right, thank you, everyone. Bye.